All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are here today to talk about the MineConnect Nevada initiative. Many of you are familiar with it. It is a project that is kind of spearheaded through the Ontario's North Economic Development Corporation, which is a partnership of the 5 major cities in Northern Ontario. They are not-for-profit, and they partner on all kinds of projects, and this is one of them. And they work through the Northern Ontario Export Program. And actually, we have some folks from that team on the call today to kind of monitor the program or to oversee the program. And we, as MineConnect, submitted a proposal to run it on their behalf, and we're successful. And we're now in our kind of round 2 phase of the project. Many people have heard about the Nevada initiative. It essentially consists of having a presence in Elko, Nevada, a physical presence. So MineConnect Canada, which people are familiar with, the former SAMHSA, opened an office in Elko. We actually set up a separate not-for-profit, MineConnect USA, to oversee all of the financial pieces of that, because you need special licensing and things for taxes in the US. So we set up a separate not-for-profit to oversee that program as well. And we have an office that we were able to lease in the, I forget what it's called. Sheena's on the line. It's the something business center. What's that called, Sheena?
Shared Business Center.
Okay, there we go.
SBC.
Shared Business Center, the SBC. And that's a great spot to be. And I'll let Sheena describe a little bit more about that office space in a second. But overall, in a nutshell, the program consists of having that office space at the disposal of companies who are part of the program, as a soft kind of landing when they want to have meetings, or they need an address for bidding purposes, or you just simply need a physical presence in the state to be able to do business and for opportunities and to seek out opportunities. So that's essentially what was the impetus of the project, was to have that physical landing space, soft landing for companies to go through, almost like a little incubator type situation. Now we're in our 2nd year of the program. Obviously, there were delays due to COVID. It's kind of a normal thing. Many of you have probably heard about the program initially through Paul Burdett, who's on the line as well from the ministry. He and I worked quite a bit at the beginning on pulling this together when I was on the board of MineConnect, and with our partners, with the folks from the city, with Scott and his team, Scott Rennie, for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say Scott, to initiate this program. So the process to get involved is as follows. I'm going to explain that, and then I'll let Sheena talk a little bit about stuff that's happening in market and what the opportunity is and what her role is, and I'll give a little bit of information about that as well. So essentially, the process is, as a company who is interested in that soft landing in the market, in that Nevada market, and when I say the Nevada market, I'm also alluding to, Utah, Arizona, but primarily that Nevada market. As an opportunity for growth, you think that there's an opportunity to increase your exports and eventually set up shop there, or get a person working there for you full time. You're looking at it as that opportunity to really kind of expand what you're doing in a physical way in the Nevada market. This is a good way to test it. So you have access to that address and that office space for a year, and you also have access to Sheena, who is our in-market representative. So Sheena Hansen, who is on the call, is our Director of Strategic Partnerships. So she helps connect the cluster companies with opportunities. Now she's not a salesperson. She's not there selling your wares. She's not there to, kind of close deals, but she is there to say, hey, this is what you're trying to achieve in the market. Here's some low-hanging fruit that you might want to tackle, or here's an event you really need to be at, or I can help organize a mine tour if it makes sense, and they're available to that, or amenable, and she has contacts. So it's really about making some connections and helping you once you're on site as well, and helping you, with the accessing of the meeting space and all that kind of stuff. So her role is really that on-the-ground market intel, that on-the-ground connector. So she can talk a little bit in a second as well, but that's really the role of the in-market person, is really to bring some of that cultural know-how that, this is how you do things here, or this mine responds better to this, or, this is their vending processes. It's stuff like that, and getting you information as well. If, you get to the point where you want to set up shop, hey, here's a couple of places you want to consider versus maybe don't go to that area. So she can give you some of that information too, and connect you with some of the organizations that can help you through the setup process or finding people to work for you. So she's there really to make those connections. So as a company within the program, you have access to all of those services. So just to explain as well, it's an application process. Not everybody can be part of this thing. We, over the course of a 2.5-year period, we're kind of running 20 companies through it, and maybe a little bit more, depending on if people drop off and then drop in. And they do not have to be MineConnect members. This is any mining supply and service company operating with significant operations in Northern Ontario that is looking to expand in that market and has capacity to do so. Even if you have all of those things and you check all those boxes, it's not a guarantee that you will be accepted even. So there is a process. There's an application process. We have a whole form that you fill out and you provide information about your operations and what you do and what you would like to do in Nevada and what your intentions are and all of that kind of stuff. And it also clearly outlines what the requirements are from your perspective, because it's all great that Sheena's in market, but she's not out there banging on doors for you. You need to provide stuff to her to help you, right? So you have to put in the time, and there is an expectation that the companies that are part of the cluster put in the time. It's not fair to those that get rejected when there's a bunch of companies that are just kind of sitting on their hands waiting for stuff to fall in their laps. So it really is a proactive type of thing, and there is an expectation that companies that do get approved be proactive. People often ask as well, how much does this thing cost? Yes, there is a cost, although it is significantly, the costs are significantly offset through the funding that was, that we've secured through the NOE and through the partners at FedNor and NOHFC. It costs $450 a month for each company. So you're billed, at the beginning and at the middle and at the end. Every month it just became an administrative burden and chasing everybody for the ARs. So we decided to do it semi-annually instead. So that's the cost to participate. So essentially it's like covering your rent and having a person and having, all that market intel for that fee. Not only does it demonstrate that you're serious about it, putting some skin in the game, but we do have costs that we have to offset. And as you know, if you've ever applied for funding, there's a contribution you have to put in. So that's partially the private sector contribution that goes towards that. So there is, like I said, you've got to apply. So you've got to fill in the application. We do have it ready for round 2. We're ready to go. We're ready to accept them. The instructions are on the application form on how to do that. They will be in linked with this presentation if you're watching the presentation. And it's also being promoted through social and emails and all kinds of places. So look for it and make sure you apply before the deadline. It's pretty tight turnaround. If we let it drag too long, people forget and then it gets backburnered. So we're trying to keep it fairly tight. So you fill in that application. The next step is post deadline. We have a committee that reviews, we're putting them all in a spreadsheet so that we can compare apples to apples. And then we have a committee of folks in Northern Ontario who review it based on a certain set of eligibility criteria. And then once that's done, we typically kind of shortlist because there are people that will apply and may not be eligible whatsoever. You don't have enough of a presence in the north, or I don't know, you sell t-shirts, whatever, you just don't fit. So those will be taken out of the roster. And then, if we're down to 15 companies or 20 companies, we go through that whole eligibility review with the actual mines from Nevada. The goal of the project is to encourage success, right? We don't want to set people up for failure. So we want to make sure that the companies that are part of this program are filling gaps versus going down there and they have 50 competitors. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help our companies, nor does it help the Nevada market. And we consider them partners. We're not there to cut people's grass. We're not there to steal business. We are trying to help our companies grow while helping their industry be strengthened and create jobs there and so on and so forth. So it really is a collaborative effort that we're doing with the state of Nevada and the partners there. So we want to, and that's why we've engaged folks from Nevada, from some of the government folks, but also from the actual mines to read through all of those applications, those shortlisted applications to determine, these are the best fit. This is kind of what we need. We're missing this service. We're missing that product. This would be great. There's a great opportunity and it'll help everyone involved. So it's a 2-phased review process. And then typically we'll have, our top 10 that have been accepted. There may be a couple, there'll be 2 or 3 or 4 kind of on the wait list in case somebody from the top 10A opts out right out of the gate, or opts out midway, or we see an opportunity for at least feeding some market intel. Or if, good example, in our last roster, we had one company that was kind of on that wait list, but is still, been working a little bit with Sheena. They're going down there, so they're like, hey, can you hook me up with? And she's able to do those types of things. It doesn't mean they have the full service, but they still get a little bit of support and they still get access to some of the market intel. So you're still benefiting even if you're not one of the top 10. But that's, the core services are for those top 10. So we have the 10 that we have now. We're going to have another balance of 10 starting in the fall, but those are the ones we're doing applications for now. The reason we're doing them now is because we have the Elko show happening in June. And if we can get those companies selected and they're going to be there, all the better. We want to engage them while we're on site, give them an opportunity to see the office, to meet with Sheena. We may as well take advantage of that fact that we're going to be in market and, just take advantage of the opportunity, essentially. So that's the program in terms of application processes. I can't, and I don't even have the deadlines right in front of me. So I don't know, Curtis, if you want to check the application and see what I put in as the deadline, I'd appreciate it for applying.
I believe it's May 6th, but I'll just double check for you there.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty tight timeline. So if you're planning on participating, get your stuff in. It's not a super complicated application. It's not asking you, it's not like a massive, but if you know your business, you should be able to fill it out pretty quickly. So we do need that fairly quickly. Other than that, no, Paul, did I miss anything, or Jenny, or anybody on the call that is familiar with the program?
Maybe I could just add to what you said, Marla, is that, a big part of this as well is that collateral marketing that happens. Like Marla mentioned, the Elko show. There's other activities that take place in Nevada and could be Utah or Arizona. But that's part of the role of this office, is to also keep you connected with those type of events. And, if we want to look a little bigger picture thing, there's opportunity for maybe a MineConnect Mexico and, so on and so on. So I think, this is a great learning tool for everybody involved. I mean, we're really trying to get a better understanding of trying to support companies with a soft landing, as Marla mentioned, in these markets. But I think if we want to look a little bit broader, it would be, to continue to create this and continue to help our companies export their products worldwide. So that's all I wanted to add.
And just to add on that, thanks, Paul. A good example of that whole kind of in-market type stuff that goes beyond just the Elko show. A good example, SME was held recently, and some of the companies in the cluster were there, and they were hosting an event, and Sheena was able to help support them in that initiative and bring Mine representatives to the event who wouldn't have otherwise gone. So taking advantage of having that person in market who has those connections is huge. So not just for Elko, but we also do marketing campaigns. Or there's a website, MineConnect USA, which the companies are on. We're doing articles and targeted social media. So there's a number of other things happening. It's not just about the office and having a person. It's driving traffic as well. So so just thank you for pointing that out. I totally was like, obviously we're doing marketing, but I guess I should be saying that stuff. I'm assuming you want to say something, Scott.
PDAC, I know you want to do stuff before then, but is there any additional marketing at PDAC around this, or anything we can help with at their Sudbury reception, for example? Or
yeah, I think ideally we're going to have people. PDAC is after Elko, so it would be.
I know
the one thing we'll be definitely promoting this at CIM next week for sure, with all the companies from Northern Ontario there. But PDAC is post Elko, so other than maybe talking about some successes at PDAC, that might be something we'll do. It might not be a bad thing to get the cluster together and see if there's additional things we can be doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're still looking to fill a few spots by that point.
And you never know. We might be. Ideally, no. Hopefully, I mean, there's a lot of interest in the program. I'd like to see that before then, but if we have to, we will.
Okay. And obviously the BEV event, we can talk about how to maybe there's some messaging there too. So, okay.
For sure. Okay. All right. So Sheena, did you want to maybe say hello and kind of give us a little bit of the lowdown on? I mentioned the SBC, but you can maybe talk a little bit about where that is and what that means and how that's beneficial and maybe some of your role as well.
Yeah, you bet. So I'll kind of cover on the SBC first. The good thing about being in this space is that each of the mines that are in the Nevada area are very familiar with this because it used to be the Barrick Nevada corporate-ish headquarters. So everyone's familiar with it. They still have people working out of here for Nevada gold mines. So some of the people that you might be talking to might already be in this building. For the most part, everyone knows where it's at. It's got a big pond out front with a fountain that splashes in the middle. Everybody knows what it is. We have 2 office landings. One of them has 2 desk areas that if you're coming in and you need workstations, you can utilize those, including another office that just has 1 landing. Then we have a small conference room for some of your smaller meetings or interviews. And then we have a larger one if you have a bigger crowd. And then there's also my office that can be utilized as well if I'm not here. And it's a smaller conference room as well. So the SBC is a good spot for utilizing those connections and not having to explain really where you're at because everyone knows what it is. So just kind of like a quick little summary on that first cluster that's gone through. We've had some quick wins. We have one that had already signed contracts within just a couple months of starting the Nevada initiative. And now they're looking to finalize their next step of hiring someone locally. Not everybody's goals are that way, but we've been able to successfully implement their initiative fairly quickly, which has been a really good thing. And there's several others that we have as well, which is fantastic. Kind of to bounce off of what Marla had said, it's very much something that's a 2-way process. It's you guys have to want it, you guys have to drive for it. I'll do what I can to help if you're getting stuck in any areas, but initially we'll look at your goals, figure out where you're struggling, what you see as a successful implementation, and I'll strategize a plan so we can execute that. Just a little bit about me, my experience. I've been in the mining industry for over 15 years, whether it's been for a contractor or working in the mines themselves. So I have a pretty good network and understanding of how the Nevada mining culture works. That's all I got, Marla.
Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about plans for the Elko show?
Sure. So we have the Elko Mine Expo coming up June 6th through the 10th. We're going to do the MineConnect USA grand opening. We've partnered with Nevada Mining Association to be a part of their scavenger hunt. So then that way we can get more people through the door. And that will be on Wednesday afternoon. So please, if you guys can get down here and if you're interested in applying, it'd be good to come down to the Elko show. It's one of the bigger ones. You don't have to pay to walk through it. You can see a lot and learn a lot. And there's quite a few mining contacts that are here for that. So that you would be targeting.
Great, thank you. And just for those who just to add to that a little bit, we will be doing a bit of as part of that grand opening, the cluster companies will be invited to bring materials and set up like little mini booths because not everyone will have booths at the actual show. There's a huge wait list to be in the Elko Expo. So one of the reasons we're hosting this at our office space, is for visibility of the office space and more reach and frequency through, branding and so on. But we can't get a booth at the show. So we thought, hey, let's do our own little mini show. And as Sheena indicated, partner with, one of the bigger associations that are really well recognized and people will participate in and have direct invites as well. So that's kind of the approach we're taking. So that's why it would be nice to have at least a good idea or some idea of who will be participating in round 2. That said, what you just mentioned, Sheena, kind of makes me think, also to Scott's point, if we're not full, it's an opportunity for people who are curious about the market, go down to the show, check it out, and then they can determine whether they want to apply. Like I said, we won't be doing the onboarding, like the official onboarding of round 2 until the fall, but if you have any interest in the program, you want to learn more, beyond this session and beyond talking to us and beyond filling out your application or reading the application. It's not a bad idea to head down and like Sheena mentioned, walk the floor, check it out, come to the event, ask more questions, see what the opportunity is. Because obviously we definitely need people to be proactive. Sheena can attest to the companies that have put the time in and have called her back and given her materials and said, yeah, let's organize something. They've seen success. The companies who are kind of not answering the calls and not sending in stuff and sending a brochure and saying, okay, here you go. Not so much. So it really is a, you've got to give to get. So keep that in mind before you apply. If you don't have the staff to do it, if you don't have capacity, if you don't think you'll be able to head down to Nevada, it may just not be time for you. So keep that in mind before you apply. You need to be able to put the time in. It's not just about paying $450 a month. It really is about dedicating some effort and energy to the whole process to be able to benefit. It's like growing any market. It's not going to happen on its own. So you really do need to go down there. The advantage in this case is you have somebody on the ground with market intel. It's not like going in blind. You're going in with some support. So, but you still need to do some of the work. So I think I've beat that horse enough. People understand. I'm trying to help you too, Sheena, because I get it. That's the way it works. Okay, does anybody else have questions or comments or anything they'd like to add before we wrap this one up? And this recording is going to be shared with everybody and their brother and sister to learn about the program. But over and above that, does anybody have any questions or anything that would maybe help answer things that people might have weren't on the call may have asked? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, we'll get this out fairly soon. We're going to stop the recording.